Valentine's Day was supposed to be just another workday for me. I was standing in my office reviewing notes for the company's annual live broadcast, a tradition we followed every year. Red roses decorated the lobby, heart-shaped balloons floated near the ceiling, and employees smiled awkwardly, pretending to enjoy the forced romance of the day. I didn't. After 12 years of marriage, Valentine's Day had lost its meaning. My husband, Adrian, had been distant for months. Late nights, silent dinners, phone always locked. Still, I told myself what every loyal wife tells herself. You're overthinking. At exactly 10:17 a.m., my phone vibrated. An unknown number. Message. Happy Valentine's Day. You deserve to know the truth. Below it, a video. My heart skipped. My fingers trembled as I stared at the screen. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it. But curiosity and something darker made me press play. The video opened in a hotel room. My breath caught. There was Adrian, my husband, laughing, shirtless, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. And beside him, a woman, young, confident, smiling straight into the camera. She leaned closer and spoke clearly. If you're watching this, it means he still hasn't told you. I'm his Valentine, and you're just his habit. The video ended with her kissing him. My ears rang, the room spun. Every sound around me faded. 12 years of loyalty collapsed into a 30-second video. I wanted to scream, cry, run, but instead, I smiled, because at that exact moment, an idea formed in my mind, an idea that would change all of their lives, and the live broadcast was starting in 20 minutes. I didn't cry. That's what shocked me the most. I stared at my reflection in the black screen of my phone, expecting to see a broken woman, but instead, I saw someone terrifyingly calm, the kind of calm that comes before destruction. I locked my phone, straightened my blazer, and walked back into the conference room like nothing had happened. 5 minutes to go live, my assistant said cheerfully. I nodded. Perfect. Inside, my heart was racing, but my mind was sharp. Every detail suddenly made sense. Adrian's late nights, the business trips that never added up, the emotional distance I'd blamed on stress, and now the audacity, sending me a video on Valentine's Day. She didn't want secrecy. She wanted war. The woman in the video. I watched the clip again, this time without sound. The woman wasn't nervous. She wasn't hiding. She was claiming. The way she looked into the camera told me everything. She thought she'd already won. What she didn't know was that I was the CEO of the company Adrian worked for, and today's broadcast wasn't just any broadcast. It was watched by investors, board members, international partners, and thousands of employees worldwide. Adrian was supposed to stand beside me on stage, as my husband, as my company's senior director, as the perfect corporate couple. I smiled to myself. Let him. A dangerous decision. I had two choices: cancel the broadcast or turn it into something unforgettable. I chose the second. I forwarded the video to my private cloud folder, the same system our media team used for presentations. Then I renamed the file, Valentine_special.mp4. My hands didn't shake. My soul had already crossed the line. Adrian arrived. He walked in 10 minutes later, confident, relaxed, carrying a bouquet of red roses. "Happy Valentine's Day," he said softly, kissing my cheek. I smelled her perfume on him, not mine. I smiled back. How thoughtful. He didn't notice my eyes. Men like him never do. "You ready?" he asked. "The investors are excited." "Oh, Adrian," I replied calmly. "They're going to remember today forever." The broadcast began. The lights dimmed. The countdown appeared on the screen behind us. 5, 4, 3. We were live. Applause filled the auditorium. I delivered my opening speech flawlessly. Company growth, achievements, future goals. Adrian stood beside me, nodding proudly, like a man with nothing to hide. Then came the Valentine segment, a light-hearted tradition, employee love stories, corporate family values. I turned to the audience and smiled. Today is about honesty, about love, and about truth. Adrian stiffened, just slightly. The moment he knew. I gave a subtle nod to the control room. The big screen behind us changed. At first, it was silent. A hotel room appeared. Adrian's face drained of color. "No," he whispered. The woman's voice echoed through the hall. "If you're watching this, it means he still hasn't told you." Gasps filled the room. Phones were lifted. Whispers exploded. I stood perfectly still. When the video ended, the silence was deafening. Then I spoke. "Happy Valentine's Day," I said softly, "to everyone who believes lies stay hidden." Adrian tried to grab my arm. Security stepped forward. The broadcast kept rolling. Aftermath began. The control room didn't cut the feed. They couldn't. Too many eyes were watching. Adrian was escorted off stage, his career collapsing in real time. My phone buzzed endlessly. Board members, investors, media, but I didn't answer. I walked off stage with my head held high, because this wasn't revenge. This was justice. And the woman who sent me that video, she was about to learn something very important. Winning a man like Adrian isn't a victory. The broadcast didn't end when I walked off the stage. It exploded. Within minutes, clips of the video were everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, news channels. Headlines spread faster than the truth ever had during my marriage. CEO exposes husband's affair during live broadcast. Valentine's Day turns into corporate nightmare. Director escorted out after shocking video reveal. By the time I reached my office, my phone battery was at 5%. I still hadn't cried. Adrian's fall. The board called an emergency meeting that same evening. Adrian wasn't invited. His access card had already been deactivated, his company email suspended. 12 years of climbing the corporate ladder gone in one afternoon. The board didn't ask if he was guilty. They asked how long it had been going on. When the HR investigation began, more truths surfaced. Expense reports tied to hotel stays, business trips that never existed, company funds misused to impress his mistress. By midnight, his resignation letter was drafted for him. He signed it the next morning, not as a director, not as my husband, just as a man who had lost everything. The mistress breaks her silence. She didn't expect this. None of them ever do. 2 days later, she posted a video of her own. Tears, shaky voice, soft lighting. She said she was misled. She said she didn't know he was married. She said she was sorry if anyone got hurt. The internet didn't forgive her. They slowed the video down. They replayed her Valentine's message. They heard the arrogance, the confidence, the challenge. She wasn't exposed as a victim. She was exposed as a participant. And then she called me. The call. I answered on the third ring. "I didn't think you'd pick up," she said quietly. "I'm listening," I replied. Silence. Then she whispered, "He told me you didn't love him anymore." I laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just honestly. I said, "He told me the same thing about you, that you were temporary." Her breathing changed. She said, "I lost my job. My family saw everything. People recognize me now." I paused. "Now you understand," I said calmly, "what it feels like when someone else decides to tell your story for you." She cried. I ended the call. Adrian comes home. On the 5th night, Adrian showed up at the house, not confident, not charming, broken. He said, "I made a mistake," standing at the door. I didn't invite him in. "You made a choice," I corrected. He dropped to his knees. 12 years ago, that would have destroyed me. Now, it bored me. He said, "I loved you." I replied, "No, you loved what I gave you. Status, stability, silence." His voice cracked. "I have nothing left." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said the truth. "That's how I felt every day you lied." I closed the door. The lawsuit. The divorce wasn't messy, it was surgical. My lawyers uncovered clauses Adrian had forgotten about, prenuptial agreements, morality clauses tied to company leadership, breach of trust. He didn't fight. He couldn't afford to. He walked away with no position, no reputation, and far less money than he expected. The mistress disappeared from social media, from his life, from relevance. The first tear. It happened a week later, late at night, alone. Not because I missed him, but because I finally accepted this truth. I hadn't lost a husband, I'd lost an illusion. And illusions are meant to be shattered. The courthouse didn't feel dramatic. No shouting, no chaos. Just cold marble floors and quiet footsteps, like the building itself already knew how this would end. Adrian sat across from me, thinner than I remembered. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by a hollow stare. The man who once walked beside me as an equal now looked like a shadow trying to remember its shape. He avoided my eyes. I didn't. The evidence speaks. My lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. One by one, the documents were placed before the judge. Financial records, hotel invoices, email exchanges, the video. The courtroom stayed silent. The judge watched the footage once, expressionless. That was enough. Adrian's lawyer tried to argue emotional distress. The judge stopped him with a raised hand. "Infidelity is not distress," she said calmly. "Deception is." Adrian swallowed hard. The twist no one expected. Then something unexpected happened. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Carter," she said, "you are entitled to pursue additional damages." The room froze. Adrian looked up, hope flickering in his eyes, but he didn't know what was coming. I stood. "Your Honor," I said clearly, "I don't want revenge." The words shocked everyone. "I want release." A pause, then I continued. "I am withdrawing all personal claims on one condition." Adrian's head snapped up. He must publicly acknowledge his misconduct, without excuses, during the next company town hall. Gasps echoed. The judge nodded slowly. "So ordered." The confession. A week later, the town hall was live. Again, Adrian stood alone this time. No power, no applause, just a man and a microphone. "I betrayed my wife," he said, voice shaking. "I abused my position, I lied." He didn't look at the camera. He couldn't. "I take full responsibility." It lasted 3 minutes. It destroyed what little respect anyone had left for him. And then it was over. Why I did it. People asked me later why I let go of the money. The answer was simple. Money would have tied me to him longer. I wanted freedom, and nothing hurts a liar more than owning their truth in public. Walking out free. When the papers were signed, I felt lighter, not victorious, free. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. I said only one thing. Closure is louder than revenge. Then I walked away. A quiet ending, or a new beginning. That night, I went home alone. I removed my wedding ring, placed it in a drawer, and for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. I thought it was over. Court papers signed, confession made, silence finally settling where chaos had lived. But people who thrive in shadows don't disappear quietly. They make one last attempt to be seen. She reappears. 3 weeks after the town hall confession, a new article surfaced online. Anonymous blog, no author name, but the tone was familiar. It painted me as cold, calculated, a woman who used power to destroy a man. They called Adrian flawed but human. They called me ruthless. I didn't need a name to know who wrote it. Her final lie. The article claimed, I emotionally neglected my husband. I used the company to control him. The broadcast was premeditated cruelty. The comments were divided. Sympathy is cheap when truth is complicated. Then came the email from her. Subject, we need to talk. The meeting. I agreed. Public place, cameras everywhere. She looked smaller now, not confident, not victorious, just tired. I never meant for it to go this far, she said. I waited. He promised me a future, she continued, a life, marriage. I nodded slowly. He promised me forever, I replied. Yet here we both are. Her eyes filled with tears. You ruined him, she whispered. I leaned forward. No, I said quietly. I removed myself from his lies. The truth she couldn't escape. She tried one last move. If you release a statement, she said, saying you forgive him, people will stop attacking me. There it was. Not remorse, damage control. I stood. Forgiveness, I said, is private. Accountability is public. I walked away. The consequences hit her. 2 days later, her employer issued a statement. They didn't fire her for the affair. They fired her for misrepresentation and ethical violations. Brands pulled away. Friends went silent. The internet moved on. It always does. But scars remain. Adrian's final message. He sent me one last text. I hope one day you regret this. I stared at it for a long time, then replied, I regret staying silent. I blocked his number forever. The unexpected shift. Something strange happened after that. Women started writing to me. Strangers. They thanked me for choosing dignity over drama, for truth over comfort. I realized something then. This story was never just about betrayal. It was about permission. Permission to leave, permission to speak, permission to choose yourself. A door opens. Months later, I stood in my office again. Same building, different woman. I signed the final document transferring my married name back to my own and smiled. The quiet victory. I didn't win a man. I didn't win a fight. I won my voice. And that was worth everything. Silence doesn't arrive suddenly. It comes in layers. At first, it feels uncomfortable, too quiet, too empty. After months of chaos, courtrooms, headlines, whispers, and judgment, the silence felt unnatural, like standing in a room where furniture had been removed, but the shape of it still lingered in the air. This was my life now. No husband, no scandal to respond to, no lies waiting to be uncovered. Just me. Learning how to be alone again. I started noticing small things, how sunlight hit the kitchen table in the mornings, how peaceful it felt to drink coffee without checking my phone, how my breath no longer tightened when the door opens late at night. I hadn't realized how much of myself I had been shrinking. Marriage hadn't broken me. Silence had. And now I was learning how to exist without explaining myself to anyone. The company moves forward. At work, things changed, but not the way people expected. Some thought I would become colder. Instead, I became clearer. I restructured leadership, implemented transparency policies, removed old systems that protected the wrong people. The company didn't suffer. It thrived because organizations, like people, only rot when lies are protected. Employees started speaking up. Women felt safer. Boundaries were respected. What happened to me became a turning point for many. A letter I never sent. One night, I wrote a letter. Not to Adrian, to myself. I wrote about the woman I used to be, the one who ignored her instincts, who justified silence as patience, who believed loyalty meant endurance. I forgave her. She did the best she could with what she knew. Then I folded the letter and burned it, not out of anger, out of release. The public slowly forgets. As weeks turned into months, the world moved on. Another scandal replaced mine. Another headline captured attention. That's how it always works. But something important happened during that forgetting. I was no longer the betrayed wife. I was just me. And that was enough. An unexpected encounter. One evening, I ran into Adrian by chance. At a bookstore. He looked older, quieter. He saw me, hesitated, then nodded. I nodded back. No anger, no conversation, no closure speech. Just two people acknowledging a chapter that had ended. I walked away first. What healing really looks like. Healing isn't dramatic. It's waking up without resentment. It's laughing without guilt. It's trusting yourself again. Some days, memories returned, but they no longer controlled me. They passed through, like clouds. The question everyone asked, would you do it again? People asked. Would I expose the truth publicly? Would I choose myself so boldly? My answer never changed. I didn't destroy anything. I stopped pretending. A new kind of love. I didn't rush into anything new. I learned to love my routines, my boundaries, my keys. And one day, without announcement or expectation, I realized something profound. I trusted myself again. That trust was the real happy ending. The final thought. Betrayal doesn't define a life. Silence does. And the moment you choose to speak, even quietly, you reclaim everything. Epilogue. Valentine's Day came again the following year. No roses, no performances, just a calm evening, a book, and soft music. And for the first time, love didn't feel like sacrifice. It felt like freedom. The months after the storm were quiet, almost unnervingly so. But silence, I discovered, was not emptiness. It was a mirror. Every morning, I would sit by the window with my coffee, watching the city wake up. Cars, buses, people hurrying, life moving as if nothing had happened. And yet, everything had changed for me. I wasn't just surviving, I was noticing. Noticing small joys, noticing the subtle power in calm, noticing myself. Facing memories without fear. There were nights I remembered Adrian's face on the podcast, the way his confident smirk had faltered, the look of shock on his mistress's face. Once I almost smiled at the memory. Then I realized I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need to smile. I just needed peace. And peace wasn't found in them. It was found in me. The lessons learned. Life had taught me 3 truths. Trust your instincts. Truth always finds its way out. Power is quiet. Strength is silent. I started writing again. Journals, letters I never sent, reflections that no one would ever read. Each word was a step back to myself. Every line reminded me that love isn't about possession. It's about respect. And when respect dies, freedom becomes your only choice. The people who stayed. Interestingly, some people who mattered emerged stronger. Friends who stood by me during the broadcast, employees who admired honesty over comfort, family who quietly believed in me even when the world doubted me. I realized then that betrayal wasn't just a loss, it was a filter, separating those who deserve space in your life from those who didn't. Unexpected strength. One evening, I received a note from a young woman at the company. She said, "Watching you handle everything with grace, it made me feel like I can speak up too, like I can take control of my life." And for the first time, I understood the real impact of my actions. I hadn't just reclaimed my life, I had given others permission to reclaim theirs. The final encounter. Adrian never reached out again. His mistakes, his regrets, his lost future, they all belonged to him. The mistress? She vanished from public view, forced to confront her own choices. And me? I walked streets, entered rooms, and met people with a quiet confidence I had never known before. I didn't look for love. I looked for life. And life, in its soft, ordinary way, welcomed me. The real victory. Victory wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about headlines or confessions. It was the stillness that came after the storm. The quiet evenings, the books, the sunlight, the freedom to just be. And in that stillness, I realized I had never lost anything that truly mattered. I had only gained myself. The world had gone quiet. No more whispers. No more scandalous headlines. No more judgment. And yet, for the first time in years, I felt alive. It wasn't a dramatic triumph. It wasn't fireworks or applause. It was something far deeper. It was freedom. Rebuilding myself. I began small. A walk in the park, feeling the crunch of fallen leaves beneath my shoes. Cooking a meal just for myself, savoring the taste of independence. Buying flowers, not for anyone, but for the joy of their color and scent. Every ordinary action felt extraordinary. Every moment reminded me that my life was mine to live, unshackled from lies and betrayal. The lessons that stayed. I often reflected on what had happened. Betrayal doesn't define a person. Silence allows deception to thrive. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and steady. I understood then that real strength is not revenge. Real strength is choosing yourself, even when the world expects you to collapse. The mistakes of others. Adrian and his mistress had faded into the background. Adrian's life was no longer glamorous. He learned too late that trust is fragile, and once it's broken publicly, it never truly returns. The mistress? She vanished, her confidence crushed under the weight of her own choices. And me? I thrived. A new purpose. I realized that my experience had given me something precious. Perspective. I started mentoring younger women at my company, not just about business, but about life, about noticing red flags, about trusting intuition, about standing firm when the world pressures you to compromise. I wasn't just sharing advice, I was giving them permission to own their lives. The unexpected joy. One evening, I received a simple note. "Your story gave me courage. You showed me it's okay to leave situations that no longer serve me." I smiled, realizing that sometimes the real victory isn't personal. It's the ripple effect of your courage. A day like no other. Valentine's Day came again. This time, no roses, no staged broadcasts, no betrayals. Just calm, just me, and a quiet joy that didn't depend on anyone else. I sat by my window with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. The city glowed in warm hues. The wind carried a gentle reminder. Life moves forward, and so must we. I didn't feel lonely. I felt whole. The final reflection. I had once been defined by someone else's choices, by deceit, by broken promises. Now I am defined by my own. Every decision, every step forward, every moment of self-respect shaped me into someone stronger. The world may forget the scandal. The world may forget the heartbreak. But I will never forget the power of reclaiming my life. The real ending. No dramatic revenge, no loud celebrations, just life and the kind of peace that only comes when you finally step into your own light. I had survived betrayal, public humiliation, and heartbreak. I had walked through fire and emerged whole. And that, I realized, was the true Valentine's gift to myself. The world thinks healing is about forgetting, but it isn't. Healing is about remembering and not letting the memories control you. Months had passed since the broadcast, the confession, and the court. Adrian was gone. The mistress was gone. The chaos had ended. But the lessons remained. Every scar tells a story. I walked through my apartment one evening, noticing small reminders of the past. The coffee mug he had used every morning, the calendar marked with anniversaries I had once celebrated, a framed photo of us at a work gala. Instead of anger, I felt gratitude. Gratitude for survival, gratitude for growth, gratitude for learning to trust myself again. Every scar was a teacher, not a curse. Empowering others. I started speaking openly to women in my company, not just employees, but anyone who asked for guidance. I said things no one else dared. If you are in a situation where your worth is ignored, your instincts dismissed, or your voice silenced, speak, even if it shakes your world, even if it costs you comfort. They listened. They nodded. They thanked me. And in their eyes, I saw the ripple effect of one person reclaiming their life. The unexpected connection. One afternoon, a young woman approached me at a seminar. I watched the broadcast online, she said, nervously, and I realized I didn't have to stay silent either. I left my toxic workplace because of your example. I smiled. No words could capture how that felt. It was as if my struggle had transformed into something meaningful, something larger than my own pain. Facing myself in the mirror. Late at night, I often looked in the mirror. The face staring back was no longer anxious, suspicious, or bitter. It was calm, confident, unshakable. I traced the lines around my eyes, reminders of sleepless nights and stress, and smiled. These weren't signs of weakness. They were proof of survival, proof of strength, proof that I had risen from ashes that weren't even mine to carry. The subtle joy of independence. I started to enjoy small pleasures again. Morning walks in the quiet park, baking without measuring perfection, reading novels on the balcony as the sun set. No one controlled my schedule, my happiness, or my choices. For the first time, I realized freedom is a quiet joy, not dramatic, not loud, but infinitely powerful. Looking forward, I knew that someday someone new might enter my life, not because I needed validation, not because I wanted to replace anyone, but because life is abundant, and love, when it comes again, must be chosen freely, not demanded, not manipulated. Until then, I was content being my own anchor, my own guide, my own love. The final lesson. Betrayal taught me more than love ever could. To trust myself, to set boundaries, to speak my truth, to own my power. I had walked through fire, stood in front of judgment, and faced betrayal head on. And the only thing that mattered now was this. I was whole. I was free. I was unstoppable. The storm had passed. Not with a bang, not with shouting, not with chaos. It passed with quiet strength, with calm mornings, with choices made without fear. I had survived betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, and now I was free, truly free. Walking into my future. I walked through my apartment that morning, sunlight spilling over the hardwood floors. No traces of the past lingered, no reminders of deceit, no shadows of the lies that once haunted me. Only me. And that was enough. The power of silence. People often think revenge is satisfying. It isn't. Power is silent. Strength is quiet. Peace is louder than anger. I had discovered that the most powerful victory isn't in public humiliation, it's in reclaiming your life and refusing to let betrayal define you. A new chapter begins. I reopened my journals, started new projects at work, invested in myself, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Every decision was intentional, every moment deliberate, every action rooted in freedom. And slowly, the world responded. Opportunities arose, new connections were made, and every day I felt stronger. The unexpected gift. Months later, I received a simple message, not from Adrian, not from the mistress, from a woman I had once mentored in my company. Your courage saved me. You showed me I could walk away too. Thank you. In that moment, I realized something profound. The true gift of surviving betrayal isn't revenge, it isn't humiliation, it's the ability to help others rise while you rise yourself. Freedom is a choice. I had once defined myself by loyalty to someone else. Now I defined myself by loyalty to myself, and that made all the difference. Freedom isn't just escaping someone else's lies, it's embracing your own truth, owning your choices, walking boldly into your own life. A Valentine's Day to remember. The next Valentine's Day, I didn't need roses, I didn't need gestures, I didn't need public displays. I made it a day to honor myself. A quiet dinner, a new book, a walk in the park, soft music playing. And in that moment, I realized something incredible. Love doesn't have to be given. It can be chosen. And the first person you must choose is yourself. The final thought. Betrayal taught me lessons no happiness could. Humiliation gave me clarity no praise could. And loss gave me freedom no possession could. I walked out of the storm whole, stronger, wiser, unshakable. And the world? It could watch, it could whisper, but my life was mine, and that was the greatest victory of all. The air was different that morning. Clear, light, free. I had spent months walking through silence, reflection, and healing. Now I walked through my life with intention. Every step was mine, every breath mine. Every heartbeat, mine. I realized something simple yet profound. The storm I had survived was not just about betrayal, it was about discovering my own strength. Embracing myself fully. I looked in the mirror and truly saw myself. Not the wife who had been betrayed, not the woman defined by public scandal, not the victim of lies. I saw someone unshakable, someone who had walked through fire and emerged whole, someone who didn't need validation, someone who didn't seek revenge, someone who chose herself every single day. The world still watches. The headlines had faded, the broadcasts were archived, the whispers of the scandal had quieted. But I didn't care. I had learned that people will always talk, always judge. Freedom, I realized, isn't found in the absence of judgment. Freedom is found when judgment no longer controls you. And now, it didn't. helping others rise. I began hosting seminars for women in corporate environments. I shared my story, not for fame, not for attention, but to show that betrayal, injustice, and public humiliation did not have to define them. I taught them how to trust their instincts, recognize toxic relationships, set firm boundaries, reclaim their voice. Every woman who left my sessions stronger reminded me, my pain became my purpose. The subtle power of patience. One of the most important lessons I learned was patience. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to respond to every insult or every lie. Instead, I waited. I grew. I became unshakable. Time, I realized, is the greatest ally of anyone who chooses dignity over drama. The unexpected joy. Months later, I ran into someone I hadn't expected to see, a former colleague. She said, "I've watched you rebuild everything with grace. It's inspiring. You didn't just survive, you rose." I smiled, because that's the truth. I had risen. Not because I wanted to prove anyone wrong, not because I sought recognition, but because I owed it to myself. Freedom is my Valentine's Day gift. Another Valentine's Day approached. No roses, no staged gestures, no reminders of past heartbreak. Just life, just calm, just me choosing myself. I realized then that the greatest Valentine's Day gift anyone can ever receive is freedom. The freedom to be unapologetically yourself. The freedom to choose happiness without fear. The freedom to walk away from lies and claim your own story. The final reflection. Betrayal had been my storm. Courtrooms had been my battlefield. Headlines had been my trial. And through it all, I discovered the most important truth of my life. Your worth is never determined by those who betray you. Your power is never diminished by those who lie. Your life is yours to claim, no matter how dark the storm has been. Walking into the light. I stepped onto my balcony that evening, watching the city glow in the golden sunset. I felt no resentment, no longing, no sorrow, only peace, only strength, only the quiet, unshakable joy of someone who had walked through fire and found herself. And in that moment, I whispered quietly to the universe, "This is my life, my story, my choice, and I choose it fully, fiercely, and freely."